The emergency signal came through the Galactic Council's communication array at 0347 Standard Time, piercing through the usual chatter of diplomatic channels like a scream in the night. Ambassador Zexhai of the Thraxian Empire nearly dropped his morning stimulant when the priority override kicked in, flooding his office with the harsh red glow of a code crimson alert. The message was brief, desperate, and terrifying. The research station Kepler 442, home to 3,000 scientists from 12 different species, had suffered a catastrophic failure of their gravitational stabilizers. The station, which had been conducting deep space experiments near a black hole, was now caught in an unstoppable death spiral. They had maybe 18 hours before crossing the event horizon. Zexhai's four eyes widened as he processed the coordinates. Kepler 442 was positioned in the most dangerous region of known space, where even the bravest Draconian pilots refused to venture. The gravitational anomalies alone could tear apart any rescue ship before it got within 1,000 kilometers of the station. Within minutes, the Galactic Council's emergency session was in full swing. Representatives from dozens of species materialized as holographic projections in the Great Chamber, their various forms of communication creating a cacophony of clicks, whistles, and electromagnetic pulses. The air was thick with panic and frustration. "The Valdorian fleet is our closest option," announced Chancellor Morthak, his crystalline form pulsing with urgency. "They could reach the station in 14 hours. "Impossible," replied Admiral Cresta of the Valdorians, her serpentine head swaying with agitation. "Our ships cannot handle those gravitational forces. We would lose entire vessels trying to approach." "What about the Zentorian Rescue Corps?" suggested someone from the back of the chamber. The Zentorian representative, a massive creature that resembled a walking tree, rustled his leaves sadly. "Our ships are too slow. By the time we arrive, there will be nothing to rescue." For 3 agonizing hours, the debate continued. Every major spacefaring civilization was consulted. The Nixai had the fastest ships but lacked the structural integrity for such a mission. The Gorvani possessed powerful vessels but were currently engaged in territorial disputes. The Keltian Confederacy had the technology but not the courage to risk their valuable fleets on what many were calling a suicide mission. As the hours ticked by and options dwindled, a heavy silence fell over the chamber. 3,000 souls were about to be lost, and the greatest civilizations in the galaxy could do nothing to save them. That's when the humans arrived. The delegation was small, just 3 individuals in simple gray uniforms. They walked into the chamber with a quiet confidence that seemed almost absurd given the circumstances. The lead human, a woman with short brown hair and calm blue eyes, approached the central podium without ceremony. "We heard about the situation," she said simply. "We'd like to help." A ripple of surprise went through the assembled representatives. The humans were still considered newcomers to galactic politics, having only made first contact 37 years earlier. Their technology was primitive by galactic standards, and their military was laughably small compared to the great fleets of the elder races. Chancellor Morthak's form flickered with what might have been amusement. "We appreciate the gesture, Ambassador Chen, but this requires capabilities far beyond what your species currently possesses." "What do you have in mind?" asked Admiral Cresta, though her tone suggested she was merely being polite. Ambassador Chen looked around the chamber, meeting the gazes of beings whose civilizations had spanned millennia before humans had even discovered fire. "Leave it to us," she said. The silence that followed was deafening. Several representatives exchanged glances that clearly communicated their thoughts about human arrogance. The Thraxians clicked disapprovingly. The Gorvani rumbled with what sounded like suppressed laughter. "Human," said Chancellor Morthak, his crystalline structure brightening with what appeared to be condescension, "your largest ships have crews of maybe 200. Your fastest vessels take days to cross distances our ships cover in hours. Your weapons technology is centuries behind our own. What exactly do you propose to do that our combined fleets cannot?" Chen didn't flinch. "We propose to save those people." "How?" demanded Admiral Cresta. "Your ships cannot survive the gravitational forces any better than ours." "You're right," Chen admitted. "Our ships can't handle those forces. So we're not going to use our ships." This statement caused an eruption of confused chatter throughout the chamber. The human delegation remained calm as various species demanded explanations in their native languages. Chen waited for the noise to die down before continuing. 48 hours ago, our engineers completed the first successful test of a new propulsion concept. We call it quantum tunneling drive. Instead of traveling through space, it allows matter to exist briefly in quantum superposition, effectively teleporting from one location to another. The chamber fell silent again, but this time the quality of the silence was different. Where before there had been dismissive amusement, now there was cautious interest. Impossible, declared Professor Yultim of the Cerulean Institute, his blue-scaled head shaking vigorously. Quantum tunneling on a macro scale requires energy outputs equivalent to stellar cores. The power requirements alone would be impossible using conventional energy sources, Chen interrupted gently. Which is why we're not using conventional energy sources. She nodded to one of her companions, who activated a holographic display showing complex mathematical equations and technical diagrams. We've developed a way to tap directly into quantum foam fluctuations. It's incredibly dangerous, completely untested at this scale, and has a significant chance of destroying everything within a 1,000-kilometer radius if it goes wrong. Then, why are you even suggesting it? Asked Chancellor Morthak. Chen's expression didn't change. Because 3,000 people are going to die if we don't try. Dr. Veltar of the Academic Consortium, a being that resembled a floating jellyfish with pronounced intellectual pride, pulsed skeptically. Even if this technology works as you claim, which I doubt, how do you plan to extract 3,000 individuals from a space station using an untested teleportation system? We don't, said Chen. We're going to teleport the entire station. The chamber erupted in chaos. Representatives leaped to their feet, appendages, or whatever they used for locomotion, shouting questions and objections in dozens of languages. The very idea was beyond audacious, it was insane. The mass calculations alone. Started one voice. The energy requirements would. Began another. The risk to every ship in the system. Protested a third. Chen waited patiently for order to be restored. When the Chancellor finally managed to restore some semblance of calm, she continued as if nothing had happened. We've already begun preparations. Our ship, the Einstein, is equipped with the prototype drive. We have a crew of 12 volunteers who understand the risks. 12? Admiral Krestow's voice was incredulous. 12 humans think they can accomplish what our combined fleets cannot? Yes, Chen replied simply. Ambassador Thexkeo of the Meridian Alliance, whose species was known for their logical approach to problem-solving, leaned forward. What is your probability of success? Chen was quiet for a moment, and, for the first time since entering the chamber, her confidence seemed to waver slightly. Honestly? We estimate about 15%. The chamber fell silent once more. 15% was not good odds. It was barely better than doing nothing at all. And, the probability of mission failure resulting in additional casualties, asked Thexkeo. Chen met his gaze steadily. High. If our calculations are wrong, we could create a quantum cascade that destroys everything in the local spacetime region. Every ship in the system, including any rescue fleets, could be lost. Then, this is madness, declared Admiral Krestow. You're proposing to risk catastrophic failure for a 15% chance of success. Yes, said Chen. That's exactly what we're proposing. Chancellor Morthak's form flickered rapidly, a sign of deep agitation. Ambassador Chen, while we admire your species' courage, we cannot authorize a mission that could result in even greater loss of life. The responsible course of action is to accept that this tragedy cannot be prevented. Chen nodded slowly, as if she had expected this response. We understand your position, Chancellor. And, we respect it. She paused, looking around the chamber one final time. We also ignore it. The bluntness of the statement sent another wave of shock through the assembled delegates. You cannot simply. Began the Chancellor. We can, Chen interrupted quietly. Kepler 442 is in neutral space. The humans on that station are our citizens. We have every right to attempt a rescue mission, regardless of the Council's approval. Your Einstein is in Council space, Admiral Krestow pointed out. We could prevent your departure. Chen smiled for the first time since entering the chamber. It was not a pleasant expression. You could try. The implicit threat hung in the air. While human military technology was primitive by galactic standards, their reputation for stubborn determination was already becoming legendary. The incident at Proxima Station, where a single human freighter had held off 3 pirate coalition destroyers for 6 hours using nothing but mining equipment and creative engineering, was still discussed in military academies across the galaxy. Chancellor Morthak's crystalline form dimmed. If you proceed with this mission and fail, you will likely doom everyone on that station to an even worse fate than they currently face. Are you prepared to accept that responsibility? Chen's expression softened slightly. Chancellor, with respect, those people are already doomed. The only question is whether they die without hope, or whether they die knowing that someone cared enough to try the impossible. She gestured to her companions, and the 3 humans began walking toward the chamber's exit. At the threshold, Chen paused and turned back to address the assembly one final time. In human culture, we have a saying. Fortune favors the bold. We're about to find out if that's true. And, with that, the human delegation disappeared into the corridor, leaving behind a chamber full of beings who suddenly realized they had no idea what they had just witnessed. Within hours, word of the human plan had spread throughout the galaxy. Some called it heroic. Others called it insane. Most called it both. But, as the Einstein departed Council space on a course for the most dangerous region in known space, one thing became clear to every watching civilization. Humanity was about to attempt something that defied every principle of rational risk assessment, every rule of tactical common sense, and every instinct for self-preservation that had kept their species alive for millions of years. They were going to try to save everyone. Captain Sarah Martinez had been in command of the Einstein for 3 years, but she had never faced anything like this. The bridge hummed with tension as her crew worked frantically at their stations, preparing for a mission that would either save 3,000 lives or create the largest disaster in recorded galactic history. The Einstein itself was an unremarkable vessel by galactic standards. At only 200 meters long, it was smaller than most civilian transports used by the elder races. Its hull was a patchwork of Earth-manufactured components and salvaged alien technology held together by human engineering and what the crew liked to call creative problem-solving. But, hidden in the ship's core was humanity's greatest scientific achievement, the quantum tunneling drive. The device looked like nothing more than a sphere of crystallized exotic matter, barely 3 meters in diameter, surrounded by a maze of monitoring equipment and safety systems. It had taken Earth's greatest minds 15 years to build, and they still weren't entirely sure how it worked. Captain, called Lieutenant Commander James Park from the navigation station, were receiving additional telemetry from Kepler 442. The situation has deteriorated. Martinez turned from the main view screen, where the swirling chaos of the target system was just becoming visible. How much time do we have? 14 hours and 37 minutes until they cross the event horizon, Park replied grimly. But, Captain, the gravitational stress on the station's hull is increasing faster than projected. They may lose structural integrity before then. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the mission's chief physicist and the architect of their impossible plan, looked up from her calculations. That actually works in our favor. The more the station's molecular bonds are weakened by gravitational stress, the easier it will be for the quantum field to encompass the entire structure. Easier is relative, muttered Chief Engineer Tom Morrison from his position near the drive controls. We're still talking about teleporting something the size of a small city through spacetime itself. Martinez nodded grimly. She had volunteered for this mission knowing the odds, and so had every member of her 12-person crew. They were the best humanity had to offer, pilots who had flown through asteroid fields that would terrify most aliens, engineers who could rebuild a fusion reactor with spare parts and determination, scientists who solved problems that conventional wisdom said were impossible. They were also probably about to die. Long-range sensors are picking up massive gravitational distortions ahead, reported Ensign Lisa Wong from the science station. Captain, the readings are off the charts. I've never seen anything like this. On the main screen, the system they were approaching looked like a vision of cosmic hell. The black hole at the center was invisible, but its effects were clearly visible in the twisted streams of matter spiraling around it. Space itself seemed to bend and warp, creating optical illusions that hurt to look at directly. And, somewhere in that maelstrom was Kepler 442, falling slowly toward oblivion. There, said Park, highlighting a section on the tactical display. I've got them. Bearing 047 Mark 12. Distance. God, they're close to the event horizon. Martinez studied the display with growing concern. The research station was a magnificent structure, or had been before the crisis began. 5 interconnected rings, each housing different research facilities, connected by a central hub that contained the primary laboratories and living quarters. Now the entire structure was visibly stressed, with several sections showing signs of hull deformation from the incredible gravitational forces. Dr. Vasquez, Martinez said, "Are we going to be able to get close enough for the quantum field to reach them?" The physicist was bent over her instruments, making calculations at a speed that would have impressed most galactic AIs. "It's going to be close, Captain. We need to position ourselves within 50 kilometers of the station for the field generators to encompass their entire mass. But, at that distance, the Einstein will be subject to the same gravitational forces that are tearing them apart." "How long can our hull hold together at that distance?" asked Morrison. "Unknown," Vasquez admitted. "We've never tested human ship construction under these conditions. Somewhere between 30 seconds and 10 minutes, depending on how well our structural integrity field holds up." Martinez felt a familiar tightness in her chest, the same feeling she'd had before every dangerous mission in her career. But this time was different. This time, the stakes weren't just her ship and crew. 3,000 people were counting on them to pull off a miracle. "Communications, are we receiving anything from the station?" she asked. "Yes, Captain," replied Communications Officer Maria Santos. "They're broadcasting on all frequencies." "Should I put it through?" "Do it." The voice that filled the bridge was calm but carried an undertone of barely controlled desperation. "This is Dr. Kamal Hassan, Station Commander of Kepler 442. To any ships receiving this transmission, we have suffered a catastrophic failure of our gravitational stabilizers. We are currently in an uncontrolled descent toward the black hole designated as Charybdis 7. Hull integrity is at 60% and falling. We have 3,047 souls on board, representing 12 species. If anyone can hear this, we could use some help." The bridge fell silent for a moment. Then, Santos opened a channel. "Kepler 442, this is the Earth vessel Einstein. We're here to get you out." The response came back immediately, filled with surprise and something that might have been hope. "Einstein? Did you say Earth vessel? How many ships are in your rescue fleet?" Martinez took the communications handset herself. "Dr. Hassan, this is Captain Martinez. There is no fleet. It's just us." There was a long pause before Hassan's voice returned, noticeably weaker. "Captain Martinez, I appreciate the gesture, but our mass is approximately 2.7 million tons. Even if you had docking capability, which I assume you don't, there's no way a single ship could." "Dr. Hassan," Martinez interrupted gently, "we're not here to evacuate you. We're here to move your entire station." Another pause, longer this time. When Hassan spoke again, his voice was carefully controlled. "Captain, I have degrees in theoretical physics and exotic matter studies. What you're suggesting is impossible with current technology." "Current technology, yes," Martinez agreed. "We're not using current technology." She nodded to Vasquez, who activated the ship's external sensors and began broadcasting detailed scans of their quantum field generators. On the station, she knew, Hassan and his team would be seeing readings that shouldn't exist according to everything they knew about physics. "Mother of all creation," Hassan whispered. "Are you people insane? Do you have any idea what you're risking?" "About 15% chance of success," Martinez replied honestly. "Significant chance of catastrophic failure. Probable death for everyone involved if we're wrong." "Then, why are you here?" Martinez looked around her bridge at the faces of her crew. These people had volunteered for a mission with terrible odds, knowing they might not survive the next few hours. They had done it because 3,000 strangers needed help, and nobody else was willing to try. "Because it's the right thing to do," she said simply. Hassan was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice carried a different quality. "Captain Martinez, on behalf of everyone aboard this station, I want you to know that whatever happens, we are grateful that someone was willing to try." "Thank you, Dr. Hassan. Now, we need to coordinate our approach. Our physicist estimates will need to position ourselves within 50 kilometers of your station for the quantum field to be effective. Can your station handle that proximity to our ship?" "Captain, at this point, an extra 50,000 tons isn't going to make much difference to our trajectory. But, I should warn you, the gravitational shear in this region is beyond anything your ship was designed to handle." You'll be torn apart in minutes. We'll worry about that, Martinez replied. Right now, I need you to prepare your people for quantum displacement. Dr. Vasquez will transmit the safety protocols. As her physicist began coordinating with the station's science team, Martinez turned her attention to the tactical situation. The approach to Kepler 442 would require flying through a region of space where physics itself seemed to break down. Gravitational forces strong enough to stretch metal like rubber. Radiation levels that could kill unshielded humans in seconds. And time dilation effects that would make coordination between the ships extremely difficult. Morrison, she called to her chief engineer, how's our structural integrity field holding up? All systems green for now, Captain, Morrison replied, though his voice was tense. But once we get into the heavy distortion zone, all bets are off. I've reinforced the key systems as much as possible, but we're going to be pushing way beyond design specifications. Park, plot us an approach course. I want the smoothest possible ride to that station. Captain, Park said carefully, there is no smooth ride to that station. The gravitational distortions are chaotic. I can plot a course, but we'll essentially be flying blind through a maze of spacetime anomalies. Then, we'll adapt as we go, Martinez said firmly. Wong, I need continuous sensor readings on both the station and the local gravitational field. Any changes in their situation, I want to know immediately. Understood, Captain. Martinez activated the ship-wide communications system. All hands, this is the captain. In approximately 1 hour, we will begin our approach to Kepler 442. This is going to be the most dangerous flying any of us have ever experienced. Check your safety harnesses, secure all loose objects, and prepare for extreme gravitational stress. What we're about to attempt has never been tried before, and if we succeed, we'll have saved 3,000 lives. If we fail, well, it's been an honor serving with all of you. She closed the channel and returned her attention to the viewscreen. The swirling chaos of the system was growing larger, and already the Einstein was beginning to feel the pull of the massive black hole. The ship's artificial gravity compensated for most of the effect, but Martinez could sense the subtle wrongness in the way objects moved and fell. Captain, Santos called out, we're receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council. Put it through. Chancellor Morthak's crystalline form appeared on the secondary screen, flickering with what Martinez had learned to recognize as extreme agitation. Captain Martinez, we order you to abort your mission immediately. Our calculations show that your quantum drive could create a cascade effect that destroys everything in a radius of several light hours. Martinez didn't take her eyes off the main screen. Chancellor, with respect, your calculations are based on theoretical models. We have actual test data. Test data from experiments involving kilograms of matter, not millions of tons, the Chancellor protested. You're extrapolating far beyond any reasonable safety margin. You're absolutely right, Martinez agreed. This is completely unreasonable. It's also the only chance those people have. The Chancellor's form brightened to an almost blinding intensity. If you proceed and fail catastrophically, the Council will hold humanity responsible for the destruction. For the first time since the conversation began, Martinez turned to face the secondary screen directly. Chancellor, if we fail catastrophically, there won't be any humans left to hold responsible. The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving the bridge in relative silence except for the increasing stress groans from the ship's hull as they moved deeper into the gravitational distortion zone. Approaching outer marker, Park announced. Gravitational stress is beginning to affect our navigation systems. Compensate as best you can, Martinez ordered. Morrison, how are we holding up? Hull stress is within acceptable parameters for now, the engineer replied, but we're already seeing microfractures in the outer hull plating. The structural integrity field is working overtime. Martinez nodded and settled into her command chair. Around her, the crew worked with the quiet efficiency that came from years of training and absolute trust in each other's abilities. They were flying into hell itself, carrying humanity's newest and most dangerous technology, betting everything on a 15% chance of success. And, somehow, Martinez found herself believing they might actually pull it off. The Einstein shuddered violently as it crossed into the inner distortion zone, and Captain Martinez gripped her command chair as the ship's artificial gravity fluctuated wildly. On the main screen, space itself appeared to be twisting into impossible shapes, creating optical illusions that made her eyes water. Hull stress at 340% of design specifications, Morrison called out over the groaning of stressed metal. Structural integrity field is holding, but I don't know for how much longer. Distance to Kepler 442? Martinez asked, trying to keep her voice steady as another massive gravitational wave washed over the ship. 47 kilometers and, closing, Park replied, his hands dancing across his controls as he fought to maintain their course through the chaotic gravitational currents. Captain, the spatial distortions are getting worse. I'm reading time dilation effects of almost 12%. Their clocks are running slower than ours. Dr. Vasquez looked up from her quantum field calculations, her face pale but determined. That's going to complicate the synchronization. We need both ships to activate our respective systems within nanoseconds of each other, or the quantum field won't form properly. Can you compensate for the time differential? Martinez asked. I think so, but it's going to require real-time adjustments to our field frequency. Morrison, I need you to give me manual control over the quantum drive's timing circuits. The chief engineer's face went white. Doctor, those circuits have automatic safety locks for a reason. Manual control means you could trigger a quantum cascade if your timing is off by even microseconds. I know, Vasquez replied grimly. But if we don't compensate for the time dilation, the field won't encompass the station properly. We'll tear it apart instead of teleporting it. Martinez made the decision without hesitation. Do it, Morrison. Transfer control to Dr. Vasquez. As the engineer reluctantly began overriding safety protocols, Santos called out from communications. Captain, we're receiving another transmission from Kepler 442. Dr. Hassan wants to speak with you directly. Put him through. Hassan's voice came through clearly despite the massive electromagnetic interference from the black hole. Captain Martinez, our sensors are showing impossible readings from your ship. The energy buildup around your vessel, it's like nothing we've ever seen. Dr. Hassan, we're preparing to initiate the quantum displacement field. I need your people to shut down all non-essential systems and brace for spatial displacement. This is going to feel very strange. Captain, Hassan's voice carried a note of professional concern, our physics team has been analyzing your energy signatures. The power levels you're generating should be impossible for a ship your size. Where are you getting that kind of energy? Martinez exchanged glances with Vasquez, who nodded slightly. Dr. Hassan, we're tapping directly into quantum foam fluctuations. It's experimental technology. There was a long pause before Hassan responded. Captain, quantum foam manipulation on this scale, if something goes wrong, you could unravel local spacetime. You could create a dead zone where the laws of physics simply stop working. We know, Martinez replied. We're going to try very hard not to do that. Captain, Wong called out from the science station, I'm detecting multiple ship signatures approaching from outside the system. It looks like the entire galactic defense fleet. Martinez turned to the tactical display, where dozens of ship icons were appearing at the system's edge. Massive draconian dreadnoughts, sleek Nix-high destroyers, and the distinctive crystalline structures of Thraxian battlecruisers. It was the largest combined fleet she had ever seen. They're maintaining position at the system perimeter, Wong reported. Safe distance from any potential quantum effects, but close enough to observe. The implication was clear. The galactic powers had come to witness humanity's attempt at the impossible. Whether they were here to document a miracle or a catastrophe remained to be seen. Incoming transmission from the fleet, Santos announced. Put it through. Admiral Kresta's serpentine form appeared on the secondary screen, her expression unreadable. Captain Martinez, the combined fleet is standing by. If your mission succeeds, we are prepared to provide immediate medical and engineering support to Kepler 442's survivors. If it fails, Admiral, there won't be anything left to clean up, Martinez replied. Precisely. Captain, for what it's worth, every crew in this fleet is hoping you prove us wrong about the impossible. The transmission ended, leaving Martinez with the surreal knowledge that representatives of dozens of civilizations were watching humanity attempt something that defied every known law of physics. 30 kilometers to optimal position, Park announced. Captain, we're starting to feel serious tidal forces. The ship is being stretched. Martinez could feel it too. The Einstein was groaning constantly now, and she could see stress fractures appearing in the bulkheads. The artificial gravity was fluctuating so wildly that several crew members had activated magnetic boots to stay at their stations. Morrison, ship status? We're holding together, but barely, the engineer replied, sweat beading on his forehead as he monitored dozens of critical systems simultaneously. I'm reading microfractures throughout the hull. The structural integrity field is operating at 127% of maximum output. Dr. Vasquez, are you ready? The physicist was surrounded by holographic displays showing quantum field equations that seemed to shift and change as she watched them. The field generators are charging, Captain. But, I need to warn you, the gravitational distortions are affecting the quantum matrix. I'm having to adjust the field parameters continuously just to maintain stability. How long do we have once we reach optimal position? Maybe 90 seconds before the gravitational stress tears us apart, Vasquez replied. Probably less. Martinez activated the ship-wide comm again. All hands, prepare for quantum field activation. Secure yourselves and pray to whatever gods you believe in. 25 kilometers, Park called out. Captain, the station is rotating slowly. The gravitational forces are causing structural deformation. Several of their outer modules are showing critical stress fractures. On the main screen, Kepler 442 was clearly visible now, and the sight was heartbreaking. The magnificent research facility was being slowly torn apart by forces beyond its design parameters. Several connecting tubes between the main rings had already snapped, and Martinez could see debris being pulled away from the station's hull. 15 kilometers, Park announced. Captain, we're getting dangerously close to the point of no return. If we get much closer, we won't have enough power to escape the black hole's pull. Dr. Vasquez, field status? Field generators are at 97% charge, the physicist replied, her voice tight with concentration. I'm detecting quantum fluctuations throughout the target area. The field should encompass both our ship and the station. Should? Morrison asked nervously. Physics at this scale is mostly theoretical, Vasquez admitted. We're in uncharted territory. 10 kilometers, Park called out. Captain, we need to make the decision now. Any closer and we won't be able to escape even if the displacement fails. Martinez looked around her bridge one final time. Her crew was ready, their faces showing the calm determination of people who had accepted that they might die in the next few minutes but were resolved to make their deaths count for something. Dr. Hassan, she said into the calm, this is it. Are your people ready? As ready as we can be, Captain. And, Captain, thank you. Whatever happens, thank you for trying. Martinez took a deep breath. Dr. Vasquez, initiate quantum field generation. Field generators online, Vasquez announced. Quantum matrix is forming, field strength at 30% and rising. The Einstein began to vibrate with a deep, subsonic hum that seemed to penetrate every molecule of the ship. The lights flickered as massive amounts of power were diverted to the quantum drive, and Martinez could feel her hair standing on end as the ship's electromagnetic field fluctuated wildly. Field strength at 60%, Vasquez called out. Quantum foam interface is stable. Beginning spacetime displacement calculations. Captain, Wang announced from the science station, I'm reading massive subspace distortions throughout the system. The quantum field is affecting local spacetime far beyond our projected range. Field strength at 80%, Vasquez continued. Kepler 442 is within the field envelope. Beginning final calculations for displacement coordinates. Hull stress is approaching critical levels, Morrison warned. We're holding together, but just barely. Field strength at 95%, Vasquez announced. Captain, I need displacement coordinates. Where do you want us to appear? Martinez had been dreading this moment. The safest option would be to teleport to the system's outer edge, near the waiting fleet. But, at the distance they needed to travel, even a tiny error in calculations could materialize them inside a planet or scatter their atoms across light years of space. Plot coordinates for the fleet position, she ordered. Admiral Krestow's flagship should be our target reference point. Coordinates locked in, Vasquez confirmed. Captain, field strength is at 100%. The quantum matrix is stable, but I can't hold it much longer. The power requirements are enormous. Wang, are you detecting any signs of cascade formation? Negative, Captain. Local spacetime appears stable. Whatever happens, we're not going to break the universe today. Martinez felt a moment of relief. At least if they failed, they wouldn't take the rest of the galaxy with them. Dr. Vasquez, execute quantum displacement on my mark. The physicist's hands hovered over her controls, ready to trigger humanity's greatest gamble. All stations report ready, Martinez announced. Dr. Hassan, this is our moment. We're ready, Captain, came the reply from Kepler 442. See you on the other side. Martinez looked one final time at the swirling hell of twisted spacetime that surrounded them, at the impossible black hole that had been ready to claim 3,000 lives. Then, she looked at her crew, these 12 humans who had volunteered to risk everything for strangers they had never met. Execute quantum displacement, she ordered. Executing now, Vasquez announced, and pressed the activation control. Reality exploded around them. The universe went white. For an instant that lasted both forever and no time at all, Captain Martinez existed in a space between spaces, where the normal rules of matter and energy held no meaning. She could feel every atom in